responsible to do this session for the club today. Like I said, I've lost at the club level in 2019. In 2020, I lost at the area level. Then in 2021, I lost at the division level. Only in 2023 was it when I went on to the district finals and won the international speech contest. So I've not been a juggernaut who was moved into and created ripples right away. I've learned my lessons. I've observed other prolific speakers and from them built my own art of how I've done things. Please note what I'm going to share here today is something that has worked for me. I hope from what I'm going to share, you can find snippets or insights that you can use in your journey, in your ideas and the way you're going to go ahead, not just with contests, but in speeches too. So just let me read the room first. How many Toastmasters? How many of you are contesting this year in Acing? Wonderful. So, given this context, I'll focus on the acing, the ISC part of it, the winning part of it, towards the end of my presentation. While I'll be focusing a large part of the presentation where all of you, in general, as a guest, as a Toastmaster, something that you all can learn or you all can build your speeches better. That's the focus for me. And towards the end, I'll be talking about what really happens or what is it that you need to do in the contest to win it. First and foremost, the agenda that I have is talking about how one idea moves from the stage of an idea that you have in your mind to what you are going to deliver as an impact in the audience's mind on the stage. Second, I'll be talking about the ballot because a contest is not a judgment of a feeling for someone. It's a hardcore wired process, parameters that are assessed by the judges while you are voted on those parameters. I'll share two ideas that are my secret sauce to what helped me when I look back today. That is something that helped me win the contest this year. And finally, I'll be opening up 4 question answers. Before I move forward, let me get an idea of what makes a winning speech. Okay, here because we're talking of contest only for a few people. What makes an impactful speech? Authenticity. One.
Connect with the audience.
Connect. Preparation. Delivery. Inspiring the audience.
Relevant.
Call for action.
Relevant.
Relevant to the audience. Retention. Wonderful. All are good answers. Pretty much what I'll be talking about. So technically, if you have already spoken, I don't think I'm adding much value to that. And yet, I'll still go on with building a collective process through which all of these things that you have shared comes into the picture to create a winning speech or an impactful speech. But specifically for the contest, please note, you could have great delivery, but that's just 30 marks. You could have authenticity, originality, that is just 15 marks in the entire ballot. So when it comes to contest, please note when I share the contest ballot to you, you'll have to understand that it's a balance of what is expected by the judges in your speech. That is what makes you win. It is not just, you could have someone like a Sudhamurthy standing up delivering the best speech and everyone would be inspired with that. But let me tell you, in a contest she will lose. With the ahs, ums, without the body language, without the appearance, there will be a lot of factors which won't go in her favor on the ballot. So please note there's one thing which is impact that you want to create and one which is winning. And these could be different. Let's move in to the first and foremost idea. What do you choose as an idea for a contest? Because a lot of people spend a good amount of time deciding what should be my idea. What should be your idea? You are going to come up with the 11th hour. What should be the idea?
Something relatable to the audience.
Something relatable. Something people remember when they listen. Something they remember. Something that they'll remember.
Pinpoint
Where I am expert.
You are an expert.
something what you faced and you overcame.
Something what you faced and you have experienced.
Something intense.
Okay.
Personal experience which may help us.
Perfect. Personal experience which may help others. Now here, one challenge that a lot of people face is they want a unique idea. They want something which is different. Something which will stick in people's mind and oh wow, I've never heard this idea. But please note, it is intentionally called International Speech Contest. It is not Shark Tank where your idea is valued and the numbers are going to roll in. It is not the idea in itself. I'm not saying idea is not important. It is not the idea in itself that is what is being judged. It is your public speaking skill that is a test in this contest. So, when it comes to the factors which are there while you're choosing what to, as a topic or as an idea of what you're going to deliver, it need not be very unique. It can be as cliched as possible. This year's champion, World Championship of Public Speaking, Jocelyn, had a topic which was about dilemma. Dilemma about how all of us are at a certain space. Should I do this or should I do that? That was a speech with a storyline. The second place winner, Nisha, had a speech about kindness. All of you might have somewhere heard this speech about words are powerful by Mamad Katani. You would have seen it as a forward. Such a cliche topic, communication. He's giving a lecture on what is communication and why is it important. And yet that goes on to win the World Championship. The idea is not, the idea in itself is not winning in the contest. It is the narrative that you're creating, the construct that you have about that idea that makes you win the contest. So, have something which already people have mentioned, something which is relatable. As an example, we had Krutik delivering speech about stammering. How many of you all in the audience have a challenge of stammering per se? 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. You could have a limited audience like this. Because not the idea is not relevant, but you did not move from stammering to any challenge that you all could have. This is a journey that I took to build or overcome stammering. There was no relatability to other aspects of someone's life. The story itself could be inspiring. Please note, I am not someone who has broken my leg on the Mount Everest or had cancer or had some dramatic story to my life, and yet I've delivered speeches. It is the everyday moments and the way you are presenting them that makes a difference. So, have an idea or a topic which has a wider connect. Choose everyday moments. That is where people relate to you. It's a narrative, not the story in itself that makes a difference. Choose a topic that people resonate. Like someone said, expert at it. When you're an expert, it's something that you believe in. Because on stage, people can not just see you, they can see through you. Are you just standing there to deliver a speech for a contest, or are you there standing up and showing yourself? What you believe in. And that belief reflects in the way you're going to deliver a speech. So it has to be something that you believe in. Even for other speeches, whatever you're delivering, you're talking anywhere, choose something that's close to your heart. Something that you have a strength about. That makes a difference in naturally your comfort and confidence and the connect with the audience. Today, if you tell me to talk about dogs, I'll give a presentation. But I don't love dogs. I'll give you information, but I won't inspire you. Because I don't love dogs. You could still have the artistic part where you have the capability to enact and build that, but still it is something that people can see that you are not a doggy. Next. So I've just noted down a few topics which have been delivered today. Please note the idea is not to evaluate them, but use snippets of them, because I can talk abstract. I can talk of what I have delivered, 30 speeches, 40 speeches, and give you suddenly a snippet out of it, you will feel out of context. What I'll be trying to do is use these speeches which have been delivered here and showcase to you the elements which can be or which was done well so that you can relate to it. There are 3 levels to ace any contest or any speech. There are 3 versions of what communication I call always. One is what you're preparing. Before you're coming here, the draft that you have, the working that you do on how is it or what is it that I want to deliver. The second is how you're delivering on stage here. The showmanship or the entire presentation that you have. And finally, the most important thing, the impact that you create on the audience. What is your purpose of why you're standing here, and did it sell? Did it reach the audience? Did you move the audience? People often skip that part of it altogether. They think public speaking about my preparation and coming and delivering, did it go well? But I also focus on the impact, because that is where your depth, your credibility, or how good your speaker you are comes in based on the assessment of that part. So these are the 3 elements that I'll be talking about today. For all these elements, I'll be talking about one, the basics, which I'm not going to delve too much, but I'll be talking about the next part, which is the differentiator of what makes it something which is credible or what makes a difference in a good and a great speech. So I'll be focusing on that. Please note, given the paucity of time, I'll not be able to go on the basics of the elements which are there, given the time frame. The first and foremost thing, crafting. Where do you begin your speech? Whenever you are told you have to deliver a presentation, when you have to deliver a speech, where do you begin? What do you start with? Idea, okay.
Question.
Asking questions? No, not the speech or delivery. I'm talking of still on paper. When you're beginning with your speech,
With the message.
start with the topic,
Message.
message,
Just main idea.
selection of topic,
Audience.
audience. Interesting. That is something as a baseline if you know where you're going to present your own. I've had people facing a lot of challenge when they're fixated on a topic, when they're fixated on one story, when they're fixated on one opening or one joke, as a result of which, on the basis of which they want to create an entire speech. And that is where people get stuck. People get stuck because you cannot build an entire storyline or you cannot build an entire speech based on these parts of the speech which are there. You'll have to fill the other buckets too. So always a good practice to begin with the speech is to ask, what is it that you want the audience to leave? What is it that you want to accomplish at the end of you stopping to speak? What is it that you want your audience to be clear? Today Harish was clear. I want the audience to be aware of what to look before they are going about doing anything with regard to finances. They had a clarity on a one-line purpose. What is it that I want my audience? He was clear at the start. I am providing information. I'm not persuading you to do financial research or do this or that. He was clear he wants to provide information so that you are aware. There will be places where the objective will be different. Whatever your objective is, I want you, if there are contestants here or if you have delivered speeches in the past, I would ask you to write one line of what you want to deliver in the speech. That's where you begin. The end in mind is where you begin your journey. I want a clear one-line statement of this is what I want to accomplish at the end of my speech. One line. Because if you cannot get it into one line, there's going to be a lot of chaos in the entire process. Because this one line becomes the anchor for you, becomes a lighthouse for you. At every point in the journey of your speech, it becomes the place that you will go to validate, does this come into my speech? Is this relevant to my speech? Is this going to add value to what I'm trying to accomplish here? This one line makes the entire difference in your journey into the speech crafting. Get that one line first. Then you can go ahead with what are the stories that I want to support this? What is the construct that I want to have? What is the kind of narrative that I want to build in a way that it will accomplish this? If it's a problem solution, set up the context. Build the situation. Bring the insight. You tell the insight first, it doesn't make sense. What is this about? So today in the feedback that Anilda gave to Harish, if you know your classroom students are there to learn that. But when it comes to this audience, tell them why are they listening to you first? Where is it going to help you? And then you have evoked interest that okay, I'm a customer somewhere. I'm an investor somewhere. What do I need to do? And then launch. This is what you need to do. Look at the structuring. The feedback that was given, I'm just using that as an example, not that it is right or wrong. There can be different narratives or different constructs to the speech. Look at how you're constructing your speech. The storyline and the construct, and then have something like a storyline which will bring the audience into your speech. Which will bring the audience into your speech and have a closing which is having takeaways. I'm not going deeper into this, like I mentioned. This is a course that I do entire 8-hour workshop. And I can't cover all these things, this is just a mention here. So, with regard to the opening, closing, something that will attract or build the interest in the audience to listen to you for the next 5-6 minutes. Again, referring to the same example, Mohammed Katani, the speech if you have seen, what does he begin with?
Secret.
Secret. Beginning with a secret. Suddenly you're curious, why is he doing this? What does he want to prove? You're curious to listen to what is going to come up next. He could have said directly, words are very powerful, you know. And this is the story that I'm presenting. But he created the setup with which you are pulled into listening to what he's going to say next. Opening. and then the same way closing, the takeaways that you're going to have. So these are ways in which you are going to focus on the crafting part of it. Just to give you a sample, a few examples where I've delivered these speeches. The contest winning speech, which was special days, the start of the speech was a question where I asked, how many of you all celebrated recently Mother's Day? I had this question like this, and we had an audience response, and I said, I didn't. Now all of you are curious. Mapping this opening to the closing, after I pulled across my ideas, stories, and narrative that I wanted to prove that special days are not important, it is how you create them. I closed the setup with asking a question. 2 weeks from now is Father's Day. Are you still going to wait for it? So you see the context building from the opening, the storyline to the closing. That is how the work at the crafting level of the speech goes deeper into thinking of every element that you're placing in the speech to make it impactful and make it packed. To know that every line, every story, every narrative, every sequence makes sense to what you're trying to accomplish in your speech. That's about crafting, but the differentiator in crafting, this is something that a lot of us do. We have delivered speeches, we have delivered presentations, we all do. But what makes the difference in the crafting process is there's content that you listen to which is for consumption. The example that I was telling of Krutik's speech. Today you all are aware about how someone who has stammering can solve the problem. But if Krutik added an element alongside his idea of this is a stammering problem, this is a solution that I found. How many of you all face a challenge in specific aspects of your life? And you have found no answer to that for years. What's happening? I've made you move from stammering to your problem. And then when Krutik launches his insights, it's about starting, it's about taking help to your problem. You are finding the answers. A great speech inspires not just the audience to listen to who you are, but to create a world of your own and solve the problems of your own. That's the difference between consumption. You will come across a lot of stories, a lot of videos, a lot of content where it is about consumption. It's memory that they are targeting. Today you might remember some ad or something from somewhere where it is about, okay, I remember this. But if I ask you what is a lesson that you have learned, how is it that has changed your life, you possibly may not have an answer because it wasn't planted in the speech of engaging with you. How is it that someone is engaging with you? Another idea is where we had Rashmi beautifully through the speech, she planted humor in her speech. You could see the engineering example, you could see the brother example, or somewhere which was possibly in the storyline, not intending to bring in a joke in between, but somewhere in the storyline, she planted humor because when speeches are like this, it is tough for the audience to stay glued with you. You build in humor, you build in snippets of emotions which are going down, which are peaking, which are adding humor. And that mix is what makes the audience stay with you. This is with the intention of keeping the audience stay. In my special day speech, I talked about the beautiful things that we do on Mother's Day for our mother, all the things. And then suddenly, I dropped the emotion when I gave this thing and I had a good day with my mother. At the end of the day, she said, if only I could feel like this for the rest of the day, or a bit like this for the rest of the day. So the entire good feel momentum that is there is dropped. And that's where the twist happens. You're talking of good things which are happening, good feel-good factors that you're connecting and resonating, and then suddenly I say, but what really cemented this idea for me was death. And then I talked about a story about how my dad was in ICU and how we moved on with it. Shift of emotion makes the audience stay glued. See how you can inculcate varied emotions to build a base in the speech to get the audience glued. Another idea people often use is something called as anchor line. You want the audience to preempt. Nivedita told about, or Shashank told about clapping. They didn't repeat it. that clap like this. But every time a new speaker was coming, what were you doing? You were clapping. In one of my speeches, which was about mentoring and the idea of how mentors need to become replaceable, need to become irrelevant to their mentees. The idea was the mentor saying, "I don't know." That's what is the speech, my title. So it's the title of my speech. And I planted that in a way in which I was repeating that line in different segments of my speech. And by the time I came to the last segment where it was hitting the nail, I didn't say that line. The audience said that line. And I had my takeaway planted in the audience's mind. So these are conscious efforts that you make in the crafting part of the speech, which makes an entire difference. I'll move forward to the next element, which is about landing. Landing is what I call delivery, because there's one delivery part of it and the entire experience of how your craft, the draft, comes onto the stage. And that makes an entire difference. It is said words contribute only 7% of how you're communicating. So we are talking of so much of preparation, so much of work for only 7%. But how it's going to be delivered is what makes the entire difference. In landing, it is not what you have as a craft, what you have as a story. It could be great, wonderful speech on the paper, but it could still falter in the way you're going to deliver it. To give you a few examples, the 2-3 elements which are there with regard to the landing part of it is the vocal variety, the body language that you have, and the stage presence is what I call the energy and enthusiasm that you have on stage. First one, body language. Can you imagine someone wearing an underwear above his pant on stage and deliver?
Superman.
That's the winner of 2017 World Championship Public Speaking. Can you think of someone wearing 2 different shoes and coming on stage and talking and delivering a speech? We have someone who was talking of fitting into the boots. The theme of the speech was fitting into words' expectation of words' definition. 2 different boots. You have someone who's wearing a sherwani, Indian sherwani, in a World Championship stage, coming on stage and delivering. The way you appear, the way you are dressing up, the way you're presenting yourself makes an entire difference in how the audience perceives you even before you utter a word. The appearance makes a difference. Are you clean shaven? Are you well kept? The dressing, the things that you're using. Other elements, gestures, body language. We all have a natural habit of the way we have developed our movements, hand movements, leg movements, stage presence over the years. So I'm not saying you can change that over a very short span of time, but something that you can consciously think for what is relevant to your speech and add value to it. Look at how your gestures are moving and the expressions, the emotions, the way you exhibit them. While you're talking of depth, are you smiling? When you're talking of something joyous, how are you? How is your voice? Or we're still talking of expressions. How is your facial expression? How is that moving along what you are saying? And finally, the position. We often see, you saw Krutik beautifully moving. Once he told his story, he moved for the 3 points. 1, 2, 3. What is the audience getting out of it? It's getting context that Krutik is going to talk about 3 things, and he has shifted his position, and the point is moving from one to another alongside what he's saying. Otherwise, you could have said 1, 2, 3. He's enhancing it with his body movement, the position that he has and moving. That brings me to the second point of vocal variety. Am I audible, Ravi? If I speak like this, I might not be audible for a long time. Yes. The volume that you have in your voice, it should not also be, am I audible, Ravi? Yes. But you'll not feel good after some time. Yes? Yes. The volume that you have, the clarity of words, like Krutik was mentioning, a lot of words eaten up in the process of getting or avoiding stammering, you're speaking fast. The words were eaten up. So things where you are clearly speaking every word and able to express it to the audience. I'll give you a demonstration of where the element of pause comes in. How many of you have had love at first sight? My wife has gone. I had 8 times. single day. Freshers party. Now look at the same thing. How many of you have fallen in love at first sight? I have 8 times single day. You didn't laugh now? Yes. The difference is not the text which I am delivering. It is the way I am delivering and using pauses to evoke humor as an example. The same way the twist elements happen, people when they pause, they help the audience to sink in. There's an insight that you've shared. They help that sink in, or they help the audience preempt. And that is where I suddenly shift what I'm going to say, and that is what creates humor. So that is what makes the entire difference in the way you are speaking, not just the words. Even when you're silent, you are speaking. So presence and energy and enthusiasm is something that you come onto stage with. You could come onto stage with jitters, fears, and it will be visible to the people. Over a period of time, you get comfortable standing here the more you practice. Now the differentiation here, I'll tell you with a demonstration of a single line which is there. The line is the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. I've said that line now. Now imagine, just close your eyes and listen to what I am saying now. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. Open your eyes. Look at what I was doing naturally, the way I was talking and I was telling that line. But I converted that into using how I want the audience to feel with my vocal variety. Now the same thing, if I want to inculcate the idea of body language also. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time you fall. Look at the differentiation between what I just said, text, script, crafting, to using voice, to using body language. And that's what we say when it comes to delivery. The entire game is about understanding your natural behavior patterns and seeing what is the need of that speech and playing to it. The speech needs that emotion in me while I'm sharing about my dad being in ICU. Today, at that point in time when he was in ICU, I was sitting outside, I would have talked in a certain way. Scared, fearful, not sure what is going to happen next in life. But today, if I have to show the same idea on stage, I can't just be saying my dad was in ICU. It was death. Sitting there outside that ICU room, I was waiting for an update from my dad, from the doctor's report. I was shattered inside and numb outside. Look at how the emotion is being evoked in the audience with the way you are feeling something, and that is translating to the audience. The power of impact comes from there, where you're connected with the audience and you're bringing it. So the simple mantra for body language and delivery is make every move, every tone, every word that you say with regard to your voice purposeful. When you can play with purpose of what you're intending to do with that line, you will make magic in the way you're going to deliver in the impact that you need. That is what you have to be mindful from the script. Think of how you want it to be delivered for the impact to come. That's a differentiation in the delivery part of it. Wonderful. The last one is the impact. I could be delivering some of the greatest speeches that I feel, but it is the audience who is the judge. Not those judges for the contest, but it is the audience who has to feel or get to what I want to accomplish with this speech. And so, taking a feedback. I have this natural habit, for the members of Hyderabad Toastmasters will know I'm always smiling. Even while fighting, I'm smiling. And that's a natural tendency of my behavior of who I am. And so, until I delivered it in one of the clubs in Bangalore, the speech which I was going to deliver in the contest, they told me, you're standing here, you're talking about ICU, you're talking about pain, you're talking about scared. But I see a smile on your face. Not the he smile, but a subtle smile, which is not reflecting what you want to showcase. when you deliver and you get feedback from people, you will be aware of your blind spots. Something that you think you're doing well, but it is only the audience who can gaze into what you are doing and what they're feeling from what you're doing. So with regard to the script, the structuring, the content part of it, it is all inside your own world or your mentor's world or the 2-3 friends that you have who don't want you to win possibly. Bringing in their thoughts, their elements. But it is only when you expose the idea, the presentation to the outer world, to people who are not known to you, you will get to know the impact that you're creating with the speech that you're doing. So it's always that practice which is required, either video recording or the way you are going to you take up slots in other clubs, deliver the speech, get to know authentically or realistically what the audience is feeling from your speech. The winning speech that I delivered that speech from the club level, which happened in which happened in March, to the district finals in a matter of 3 months. I delivered that speech 26 times across 13 clubs. To get to gaze what is it that the audience is feeling, because that is what the ultimate judge is going to be. One of them could be the judges. Yeah, specifically to the ballot, we work around that. But with regard to the impact of what you're going to deliver, how you're going to influence people with the purpose that you have, it is the audience who is the ultimate judge. And if they're not getting what you want them to get, there's something that you have to work for them to get what you want. Too confusing, right? I was confused, I was thinking what to say next, I added. So the idea is, this entire game of mastery or acing for impact, not for contest, or acing for impact, moves from the craft that you have of the speech, to what you're delivering, to what the impact. There needs to be a sync between these three for you to ace any impact that you want to create for a contest or for any speech. The amount of depth of effort that you've given into that one speech makes the entire difference. If you're doing it for a contest, you will give it maybe 2 months or 3 months of your time. But if you're doing it for maybe a club speech or something which you're casually going and presenting, you still, if you can give a good amount of time to preparing these 3 versions and reviewing them, you have an opportunity to make an impact every time you are giving a speech. That brings me to the last part, which is about the contest. For the contestants and for everyone who wants to see how the judging is done, because there are people who are the judges, they are not known to anyone. Others I would have given a gift box to them after I won. I don't know who are the judges. They are silent, anonymous judges but they have the same ballot. And they have to mark based on their judgment. They are trained for how to give the marking also. Please note, that's the level of detail that Toastmasters need. For the content, they are giving you 20 marks for speech development, the structuring, the organizing, the material, the stories that you have brought in. For 15, for the effectiveness, wherein is the purpose at the end of your speech clear? What is the interest and the reception of the audience? 15 for the speech value. This is where I was talking of original thought. When you're fighting for what is the unique idea that I want to bring in, you're fighting for only, in 15 also you're fighting for only 5 months or 6 months. For different thought. If it is there, good. No denying the fact. If it is there, great. But it is not the only deciding factor because we're talking of public speaking competition. The next part is where we're talking delivery. Luckily, unlike what I told, 7% is words and 93% is vocal variety in body language, Toastmasters, when it comes to public speaking, focuses on 30 marks for your delivery. It is not that 93 marks. And finally, the appropriateness, the language part of it, where it is appropriate correctness. This is something which I feel if you keep doing public speaking, it comes naturally. So these are more of, I would say, hygiene factors, not the differentiating factors in a speech contest. Is the pronunciation clear? You might ask if someone has a Tamil accent in their language, does that take away from a chance from them to win? No, it doesn't. Even if you have that and if you are clear in your words, it is understandable, you still win. It is not for the flair that they are giving you the marks, or for the voice, or that charisma that you are presenting. It is for the speech in itself that they are giving the marks. So that is the ballot for you all. So for the contestants, go download the ballot. For every point that is written here, speech development, there is a description to it, which the judges are going to before evaluating you. So go and see, while you are preparing your speech, go verify and map. Does your speech have? Where can I get marks, or how much do you think for speech development your judges might give you, or what is the idea that you're planting while you're delivering that audience judges will feel that okay, speech development was done right? Was there a logical flow? Was there structure? For delivery, did you or do you have elements where specifically it stand out for the judges to say that okay, wonderful body language. Your speech entirely might not be dancing here and there. But if they can recognize, okay, I saw body language, I saw usage of body language, purposeful movement, purposeful change in voice. That purposefulness is what they'll be judging. So you have to review while you're preparing. Am I going to get 10 marks in this? Or what do I need to improve further to get this 10 marks if you're looking at contest alone? So that's how it is. Finally, coming to the secret sauce that helped me win. First, this is something which I've already told in the first part of idea generation. Bring your soul onto the stage. I've seen some exceptional speeches with perfect structure, body language, vocal variety, and all these elements which are the nuts and bolts, but without the heartbeat. And people can see if there's a heartbeat in that speech or not. You could have places which are perfect, the parts which are perfect, and yet they miss out on the authenticity or the connect of the speech. Second, contests will always keep coming. If you're too focused on the contest results, it will only create pressure for you. Focus on delivering an impact, and I believe if you focus well with all the preparation, I'm not saying ignore those things. If you focus well on the preparation, the elements, and focusing on the impact that you're having on the audience, I believe that is a bigger victory than winning a contest. That's your power of how much you are capable to create an impact. Ultimately, for Jubilees 2023 as an example, we are talking of 700 people. In Toastmasters, we are talking of 2,80,000 people. And what's the world population? What's your city population? What's your company population? Whom are you interacting with? That's the real world that you need to target for creating an impact in whatever you're doing. It doesn't have to be standing up and delivering a speech. The real opportunity or the bigger market or bigger place that you should be actually bothered is about the impact that you'll be creating in the world, not just for winning that one trophy. With due respect, I completely enjoy and I'm proud of the fact of that trophy in my career. But I'm more proud of the fact of how much impact I create in every time I speak. That's the secret sauce which has helped me give confidence to make a deeper connect with people. With that, I'm open for questions. We are left with 5 minutes for questions. That red was at 30 because I told him give that towards so that I am aware of it. Any questions either for the contest, preferably first for the contest and then if any other generic questions are there. Any contestants, any questions? Yes. No, it's only for members, and in members also there is a specific criteria for international speech contest. For the members, HTMers who are new also. For international speech contest, the minimum requirement is you need to complete level 2 of any of the path that you're going, or you need to be a DTM to be eligible to contest in international speech contest. So it's only a member contest. The guest can definitely, for the event which is going to happen on 10th, 11th and 12th of May this time, Jubilees 2024 is happening, so I'm announcing it here. 10th, 11th and 12th or 11th and 12th of May the event is happening, and registrations or the tickets will be open very soon from the district. The announcement will come. Whenever it comes down, we'll be sharing it in our HTM guest group as well. So as a guest, you can definitely attend. So that's the part of the attendance part. You can witness these speeches, or we can witness as an audience. You can witness and be a part of this. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question based on speech drafting.
Okay.
So how important is it for a speaker to mention about how he started acting differently after the realization that he got through that he mentions in that speech? How important it is to mention how I started acting differently?
Okay. I might need more context to it, but still, I'll talk of it in a generic sense. When you're delivering a speech, what happens with most of us is you either have a challenge or a problem, and you come to a result. But what doesn't inspire is, or what doesn't matter, or most often where we miss out in speeches is we move from here to here directly. What really helps people in their journeys, in their solutions, is how did you move from here to here? And more importantly, here, when you have shared these problems or experiences, which is the challenge that you have, you can show the insight. You can reflect on how these things reduced. You can reflect on the emotions or the result of what you have achieved with those insights. What change started. So either you can do it like with regard to, like you showed the emotions here, you can show the emotion here with regard to what changed, or the insight of the challenge which was there while you were here in the problem situation, and how it changed afterwards. So in my special day story, again I tell you, the problem was I was bothered only on about few select days in my life when I was waiting to make it special. Here, the entire third story, which is about humor, changed the narrative of how I didn't wait for special days. I gave a rose to my mother even without this Valentine Day or without the Mother's Day, or I brought a gift to for my wife without the Valentine's Day. For examples like that, where it shows what was the past, which was the challenge, the insight, and then what happened as a result of the insight or the solution. If you show that, it motivates the audience to see that this is where I am right now. But what is it that will happen if I do this or if I work on this? So you showcase that element where you're providing them the before and after part, where they are convinced to work on their stories where they are here to get the benefit of what they will be getting. Clear? If there is anything specific, we can talk about it later. Any question? Anuta? Yeah.
You said about that using the wave of emotion like taking higher and lower, but as far as I've seen most speeches, there's just one, like there's just two switches. You start at a high point, then you enter the crisis and you move to it. But there are certain ICPs, he does this 2-3 times, but many speeches when that happens, the overall, it just falls apart. I've seen like if you do it too much, but Dhananjay Indraji does it every story he's doing it. So what is that? How can you do that wave multiple times?
Taking your audience on a ride can be risky unless you are in control of how they are feeling and how they are switching. If you see Dhananjay's case, as in my speech, which is famous, I see something in you. The case is within the story, he is using humor line or that subtle one-line statement where people connect with the depth of the emotion. And then the storyline is going. Sorry if others are not able to relate it with that example, because I'm just answering to his question. So it depends on how you are within. It doesn't have to be emotional, like I mentioned from, in my story as an example, it was good, positive to death. So it was only one way, technically speaking, and then lighting it up and launching myself. Somebody else could have a normal conversational style in which they are going to evoke or poke emotions here and there, with which there's a fluctuation, and that is what makes it good. That is what makes it good. So as an example, that Dhananjay's speech where he's talking about how many of your mothers are dramatic. Pull them all together and we'll find my mama. So that's again another experience. That's one part of the drift. But that is his style. You need to understand what's your style, naturally what works for you. Otherwise, when I see you the way you are right now, and suddenly on stage I see a different Anuruddha altogether, I'll be perplexed of what got into. Getting the point? Because ultimately the idea is we as humans, the sync that we need to build apart from this is who we are here and who we are off stage. You will do a bit of things here and there, but it can't be complete contrast to what you are there as an individual. I know the way I talk to you and the way you're seeing me talking. If there is a stark difference, it won't be a speech for impact, it will be a performance that you're doing. And again, subjective with regard to how these days performance is winning, not the content. It's a long debate. Yeah, sorry.
You mentioned that impact is very important. So how do we gauge or how do we validate that my speech will have an impact?
Ask, talk. The more you, before the D-Day, whenever you're delivering, talk to people. So guys, I want to assess myself. Please scan this link and share.